sitting at your job, daydreaming about the life that you would have if you'd won that big jackpot? Do you want to design a life for yourself that you don't need to take a vacation from? Do you have a vision for your life that you just don't know how to make a reality? Next Exit Your Destiny is a witty, comical, yet straightforward guide that gives you common sense, easy to follow steps to make the life you dream of the life that you live. Get off of Unfulfilled Street, Unhappy Way, and Sunday Night Blues Boulevard and take the next exit towards your destiny today.
All right, welcome back everyone to Dream Building 101. I am your host, Dr. Ebony Potts. And on this channel, we talk about dream building. We talk about finding your path to fulfillment and, things of that nature. And we also kind of highlight what's a part of my book. My book is called Next Exit Your Destiny, Taking the Road to the Life of Your Dreams. And again, that's what we focus on this channel. So we make sure that we interview individuals that have taken different paths so that you have concrete examples of people that may have gone through some of the same situations that you are going through or have gone through to help you to see the light, So today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Tracolya Green. Hello, ma'am.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the people and tell them who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I think this is an awesome experience. I'm so glad to see you, doing this. Definitely believe it's your calling to be a part of, awareness of how really people choose and select their paths. And then, just the whole idea of just providing a positive platform for people to really connect and be inspired. So kudos to you for doing that. Glad you asked me and can't thank you enough for allowing me to tell my story. I am Tracolya Green, chief of high schools in Tampa, Florida. Definitely don't think that that's what defines me. I'm a mom, a Christian woman, and those two things I value the most. I believe that being an educator is my ministry, and so all my promotions have definitely come from God, and I try to obviously use that as the platform or the driving force behind why I do what I do. A single mother, recently divorced, and I think that's a critical piece, being vulnerable when you tell your story, just because people need to know that everything isn't perfect. My life definitely has its challenges, and you work through those, and you have a community. Being ultra independent is a trauma response, and I found that out the hard way. You really have people who love you and want to be a part of your success, and you should allow them to be your village. And so I am where I am because of my strong but small village.
I know just a bit of your path because Dr. Green and I met again at Andrew Jackson High School in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was an administrator there for a period of time as well. But again, she had a whole story before she met me and, has a story that continues after that. So how about you let people know kind of, how you ended up being the chief of schools? And those that are not familiar with the structure of schooling may not know what that means. So if you can explain that a little bit as well.
Absolutely. So chief of high schools, I am essentially assistant superintendent of high schools. And so I supervise and manage about 51 principals because Tampa is the 7th. Hillsborough County Public Schools is the 7th largest district in the nation. And so we have 250 plus schools. We have 51 grade 9 through 12 education sites, 28 comprehensive high schools. And so I oversee all of the high schools, the career centers, the alternative centers. Prior to that, I was principal at Andrew Jackson High School. Really enjoyed that. Had the opportunity to be an administrator with you as assistant principal. We definitely had an interesting journey at Andrew Jackson High School. Prior to that, I was the director of science. I worked for the Florida Department of Ed as a differentiated accountability school improvement specialist. I taught science and math in both Georgia and Florida. Had the opportunity to serve as instructional coach. I've been at every level, and I'm fortunate for that experience. So to be school-based, to also be district based and then to be state based. I've seen so many different dynamics in public education, and it really truly has shaped how I lead. I am from Georgia. That Southern twang comes out. I think, I used to be very, I used to be subconscious and insecure about it, but now I've embraced it and truly don't even think about it, because I find people appreciate the fact that I stay centered with who I am, because a large part of my leadership was really shaped by being a country girl in Tarboro, Georgia. Didn't have a lot, very, very humble beginnings, poverty at a different level, not fear of my life, and definitely not fear what I was going to eat, because we had a farm, but we definitely pumped water from a well, definitely had to wring chickens' necks. People, if you're from country, you know what that means. Had clotheslines, laundromat trips once or twice a month, just a very, very rural living. And it really made me aspire to have more. I think definitely at the beginning was what my driving force for trying to achieve a lot and be extremely ambitious in my pursuits.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because, one of the people that I do follow online is Tabitha Brown, if you've heard of her. And she also talks about, at first she's an actress and she is from North Carolina. And she talks about, feeling self-conscious about her Southern twang, and really learning to embrace it. And once she embraced it, other people looked to her and felt like, hey, I speak the same way. It doesn't define who I am. Where I came from doesn't define who I am. And, people appreciate that. I also interviewed another power YouTube, Where You're Going to Be. And again, people hearing that can realize that no matter where they come from, no matter what they sound like, no matter what they look like, you can use all of that to get you to where you want to be. So that's great. That's awesome. How did fear, because I know personally, when I first stepped into administration, and you and I have had conversations as well about different aspects of it. When I first stepped into administration, I remember my first day in my assistant principal's office at a high school, which was actually for me in Georgia. I was like, this is different, because, in the classroom, you're responsible for, obviously that is a huge responsibility. You're responsible for 100 or so students nowadays, but it's on a whole different level when you become an administrator, because, one bad move in your school could be on the news. So it's a huge responsibility. And I remember feeling nervous about it. Like, oh my gosh, and I remember telling myself, okay, if the Lord brought me here, then I'm okay. I will learn what I need to learn and it'll be okay. But I know that during those transitions, I know that fear definitely had to rear its ugly head. So how did you work through that at the different levels, and how did you overcome it?
For me, the greatest fear for me has always been the fear of failure, which puts a lot of pressure on you, right? And I think over planning and over preparation was one of the things that I used to deal with, and then always trying to control everything. And my faith, as it grew, became probably my survival method. I do believe that when you truly align with God's will, and your ministry is to do, if especially if it's your work, is to do that, then God will make the provisions, right? Especially if you take the courage to follow his plan. And so my faith definitely was one of the things that kept me from not feeling overwhelmed, for trying to maintain focus on what the mission and the purpose was, and to always just remember my core values when things around me changed, and stay consistent with, this is my ministry and I'm supposed to edify people, and I'm supposed to elevate the experience of everybody I come in contact with. In addition to that, though, I have acknowledged that I am very controlling. And so and one of the things I did that I think led to a success at Andrew Jackson is really starting to embrace your team and allowing people to be empowered to make decisions. You hire the right people, and then you trust them to do that, and you lead beside them instead of out in front of them or over them. And so for me, once I really started to embrace that I was going to trust people to do their job, support them wholeheartedly, and give honest feedback around whether or not they were, then we could work together as a team. And it helps to eliminate the fear because it's shared fear, it's shared experiences, and everybody wants to work together to solve the problems that they have in their space. Involving the kids and empowering the kids to take ownership and build pride was another thing that I attribute to my success.
My husband and I have had conversations, and you and I have had conversations. Leading adults is different, and then being in the classroom, and just some things that I had to learn back then as well. It's just, for me, it was patience.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely had a control issue. Both of us are A-type personalities, different, but most women, I think definitely most women, not necessarily men, but most women who are females, obviously have children who and may or may not be, wives, trying to manage all of that and do a decent job, not even a good job, but just do a decent job. The multitasking portion of most women's brain causes you to want a certain level of control over things, because it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel as though things are going okay. You got all of these tops that you're spinning at the same time. And when things start to kind of feel as though you don't have some level of control over them, that fear at times can magnify. For me personally, I extended a lot more grace to children because I felt, okay, you're 12, developmentally, you don't know things. Of course you don't. But for adults, it was more difficult for me to have that level of patience, because I felt as though, okay, you're 35, you're 45, and at times you're dealing with people that are the age of your parents. And I'm like, how do you not know to work on time? Things of that nature. So I had to, again, step back and just realize that things that I learned and that were imparted in me were not the things that someone else learned, were not the experiences that someone else had. And just because someone reaches a certain age, it does not mean that they've had those experiences. So, that definitely was something that I had to learn, working with just, not just in schools, but just working with adults in general. So, what other kind of hurdles did you face? Go ahead.
I said I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. What other kind of hurdles or obstacles did you face along your path, and how did you get over those?
I think also as a leader, probably a big hurdle, and one I see my peers stumble with, is the wanting everybody to be happy, wanting everybody to agree with your decision making. You can't lead and not just accept that 15 to 20% of the people for some reason are going to critique or criticize your decision making, and you have to have develop a way to have peace with knowing that they're going to people that don't like you. You don't know why, but they don't. They're going to be people that tell you why they don't like you, but you still got to move forward. And for me, I just adopted just the mentality that I was going to presume good intentions of everybody, even if they didn't like me. Their reasoning was formed based off something. It could have been a look, it could have been whatever it was, but I was still going to treat them with love, respect, and support, and not treat them differently just because I wasn't their preference. Whether or not I was going to would try to be the fan favorite, or was I going to stick to my core mission and my core beliefs.
If you could speak to someone out there who may be just getting on their path, whatever their path may be, to living their best life towards fulfillment, what would you tell them?
I would definitely tell them to be relentless in their pursuits, that you don't get time back. It's the one thing that I felt like was always pressing. And so I was definitely goal oriented. People will tell you I always had 5 to 10 year goals, and it works in some areas and in some it doesn't. I'm gonna tell you, it backfired tremendously in my personal life with my relationships. But with my professional life, by 30, I'm going to have my doctorate. I'm going to have 4 degrees. And so that's what I set out to do. And I tracked it. Where am I now? Okay, got my master's. Got my specialist. All right, 30's approaching. Where are you with your doctorate? So I would definitely say setting goals, just realizing that you don't get time back. And so that worked in my favor. I wanted to have a 6-figure job before I was 30. I didn't want to have kids before I was 30 because I wanted to accomplish all of these things and then, focus on my family when I started to have them, not knowing that, obviously I I would have to sacrifice some level of my career to do that, which I did. I took some time off and went back in the classroom after being a director, because having a family, you do have to be prepared to make huge sacrifices and make sure that your kids feel love, because I never wanted my kids to feel less than what I was doing, or have less than what I was doing for other people's kids. They needed to be my priority. But I think my biggest thing is to take advantage of the time, be relentless in your pursuits, and set goals and progress monitor, track whether or not you are moving towards them. But I mean, whether it's a small goal or a large goal, when you start to achieve them, then you want to keep setting them. And that's obviously what happened to me. It's like, oh, okay, I could be an instructional coach. I like this. Oh, I could be an assistant principal. Oh, I like this. I could be. And so, it just kept, the inspiration just kept coming, and God just kept, giving and being, and just being a rewarder for me diligently seeking Him. And let your village be your village. Stop trying to be independent. As women, sometimes we can be too independent. And specifically, again, I think that's a trait of Black women, where we become ultra independent. Well, I'm gonna do it all on my own. And there really are people in our corner really wanting to help us and don't see it as a burden, allowing them to really, really be our support system so we can operate at maximum capacity, I think it is important.
Definitely. My book also talks about, finding your path. And one of the things it talks about is goal setting. The chapter 2 talks about your gift. And I also talk about having a vision for yourself. So everyone doesn't know these steps. These are steps that we as educators express to students and express to teachers, and we have to do ourselves as a leader in education. But again, my book kind of walks people through those steps, and one of the things you want to do once you set a goal is write it down. Write your goals down, put time limits on those goals. And if you have a setback, it's okay. Like if you make a mistake, you make a wrong turn, or something doesn't go the way that you think it should go, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not on that path. You just eliminated one route that doesn't work. So now you can focus on some other routes. Right. Set those goals, make sure you write them down, set time limits, and start working on them incrementally. I think also another thing that kind of keeps people trapped and feeling like they don't know which way to go is that they're looking at the ultimate end goal. I want to, have a restaurant that is, that's all over the United States. I want to open a soul food restaurant that's in Texas and here and there, whatever, and that sounds like, wow, up here, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with you starting to sell, box lunches to teachers in your local community, or just catering church events and things of that nature. Starting small to work on those goals incrementally is the way to go. It's the way to go.
I agree wholeheartedly. One additional thing I probably would add is to take advantage of your advantages. My current mentor tells me that all the time, Tracolya. He's always saying, what are your advantages? Take advantage of them. And so I definitely think that's important. Networking and the people you meet, take advantage of that, because those opportunities, who will definitely be pivotal when it's time to move around, do whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's get a new job, whether that's get a promotion. Taking advantage of that network is definitely something that you have to do.
And that's true. Another thing too that I think is a trauma response when things don't necessarily go the way that you want them to go is, especially now with social media, the haters. You don't have as many haters as you think you do. You just don't. And to reach out to people that and just ask whatever it is that you're trying to do. Just simply ask. If they say no, they say no. But you have more people, especially when you're moving in your path, right, that will say, okay, than you would think. So, again, to tag along what you said about using your network, it's not using people, okay? Because everybody needs somebody on their road to wherever they're going. And just return the favor when it's your turn,
Yeah, I agree. It's just an advantage. And you just taking advantage of it. I mean, no different than if I know the judge and then I go get a ticket. I'm getting ready to reach out.
Exactly.
So that's just, I mean, that just is what it is. Unless we got to make sure that we capitalize on those opportunities.
Definitely the truth. That's true. Anything else you want to add or any questions for me?
No, I'm just so proud and so grateful again. And I'm praying for you, lady. Always keep me in your prayers. And I just can't wait to see what happens with the book taking off, and this platform as well, because people need to talk more openly, financial freedom, and all those things, all the things that I'm personally working on for my kids and my family and their kids. I definitely think that that's worth noting too, that we have to do better as a Black culture of making sure that we don't push people down to the ground and then tell them to get up. We need to create it so that they already have an advantage as well. We need to make sure that we're providing advantages for our people so they don't have to get it from the mud. They're not built like that. It's a lot of them just not built like that.
And it's not necessary because that's not what other people do. For example, there's a politician, I'm not going to say their name, but statements were made as though, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I started from nothing, but this person started with a $1 million loan to get themselves going, from their parents. That's not really starting from the ground up, Yeah. Right. Not at all. So, and that there's nothing wrong with that, though. The fact that that person started from there, and for us to be able to provide those same opportunities for our children so they can take it, we get here, that's what I tell my children. I want, if I'm here at the end, at the pinnacle, right before I go see my maker, I want you to take it up here. That's my goal,
Right.
So, that's definitely important. Where can anyone watching see you in action? If they want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
So if they want to get in contact with me, my Gmail is Tracolya. Apparently, I'm the only Tracolya in the US of A. Tracolya at gmail.com, Tracolya at gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You also could obviously go to my job website and you'd see me under Chief of High Schools under the District Administration, Tracolya Green.
Well, I will say, for one, thank you so much for coming, just watching you working beside you, and then watching what has occurred after we stopped working together. And Andrew Jackson has been really inspirational for me. I know your heart and your heart for students, and for that to be able to be put at a higher level, at a bigger platform, for you to be able to just really do what's in the best interest of students. It makes my heart feel good. And, I just know that you have the best intentions for kids, and it's awesome for me to watch. So I appreciate you to being a guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And if you like what you saw today, please go ahead and hit subscribe and like, and don't forget to pick up Next Exit Your Destiny. It's available on Apple. It's available on barnesandnoble.com. It's also available on Amazon. And my website will be up very, very shortly. So again, thanks again. And bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.